Dr. Judy here, Dr. Judy WTF, what the Freud. And today I'm going to talk about a very, very important concept called, are you evolving or are you devolving? And how do you know the difference? And so this is actually one of my favorite topics in the whole wide world because I'm concentrating on evolving. I don't know about you, but I don't want to devolve. I mean, there's a natural process of devolving. Our cells are dying, we're getting older, we're getting closer to the end of the game, so we're already naturally devolving. However, we can't give up the battle and just let everything overtake us. So we have to make effort to evolve. So I want to go to the panel that represents evolution versus devolution, and that would be panel number 8. So if you take a look at panel number 8, you could see a DNA strand. It looks like a ladder, and then you've got little people climbing up the ladder, and those people represent your struggle up. It represents your hand to the people below you and your hand to the people above you who help you up the ladder of evolution. So hopefully you're helping somebody climb and somebody's helping you climb, and it does make a difference who you hang out with, a huge difference. And so in a sense, what I'm talking about is recoding yourself into health, evolving. And through the evolutionary process, you're always recoding something, mind, body, soul. So what prevents us from evolving? Let's go back to the beginning, the source, and look at the mind map. We're going to mind map this thing as we do all the time. And if you look at panel 1, you could see the darkness and the light. So panel 1 is a metaphor for the darkness, which are the obstacles that block us from evolving, and then the light, which is our natural inclination to evolve and to be the best of our best. So what trips us up, what knocks us down, what blocks us from being the best of our best is what we're going to get into, and that what we could do about it. So thank you, audience, for being in the chat room, and I love call-ins. So if anybody wants to call in and discuss evolving versus devolving and how tricky this whole thing is, because sometimes when you think that you're evolving, you're really devolving, and sometimes when you think that you're devolving, you're really evolving. So it's not that obvious all the time. Sometimes it is. So look at panel number 1 as the template for the blockages that block our light. And from a psychological perspective, what are they? They are childhood wounds predicated on neglect and abuse. Abuse such as sexual abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse, control smothering, emotional neglect, parents that are narcissistic and put their own needs before your needs and make you feel unseen, unheard, unwanted, and unloved. And that happens to be a specialty of mine because I've been dealing with a lot of people who are recovering from narcissistic abuse. And just for you to know that I have a video out called Healing from Narcissistic Abuse. So if you are really stymied in your evolution, you might want to check this out, and you might want to call me so that we can put together a plan that includes the video so that you can not let your past block your future growth. That is the point of the mind map, is that we've got to remove the obstacles. We have to go through a process of decoding your past, meaning taking apart all the elements that trip you up, and then we've got to recode your future and set you up for success. So evolving and devolving, let me give you some obvious examples. So when you drink Coca-Cola, okay, or any kind of sugary, boogery kind of soft drink or aspartame kind of drink, What do you think you're doing? Do you think that you're nutrifying your cells? Do you think that you're giving life force to your body? Well, I think you know the answer to that. So that would be what I call devolving, and I call that the death code. So if we go back to Sigmund Freud, he talks about eros and thanatos. So eros is life force, thanatos is death force. So we're either on the side of death force or we're on the side of life force. And again, it's not always all that obvious. So you can see that drinking Coca-Cola and eating processed foods and drinking alcohol and doing drugs and a lot of things that are not healthy for your system is going to devolve you. Okay, so that's on a mind basis. Spiritually, how do you devolve spiritually? Well, one of the discussions that I had with a patient of mine today was that when you don't have a natural respect for higher order, so nature doesn't fool around. You're not going to beat gravity. You're not going to beat the sun coming up in the morning. You're not going to change the system. You're not going to change the natural flow, the nature of the flow. If you try to do that, you're in trouble because you're going against the grain and you're building something unsustainable that is not supported by nature. So if you go against nature, you're probably on the road to devolution. And if you want, prove me wrong. I'm open to being proven wrong. It's just that I've seen this mind map at work, and I have seen enough to know that when you align yourself with sustainability, when you align yourself with physical health, spiritual health, mental health, any kind of health, mind, body, soul, you are going to evolve. Now let's look and see what the process looks like when you're not evolving. So as I mentioned, panel 1 is riddled with traps and ways to make sure that you get tripped up and you don't blossom into the best of your best. So now we've got panel number 2, which is our reactions to the wound. So first is the wound, and now we get tripped up in our reactions, which also doesn't allow us to evolve because now we're just reactors. We're not being proactive. We have a cracked lens of perception. It's difficult to see the light from the darkness. It's difficult to understand where we are, who we are, and whether there's real danger or perceived danger. And I call panel 2 the amygdala, which is the fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. So when you're in the automatic mode of fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, it's really difficult to evolve because you're in survival mode. And survival mode doesn't always take you down the best path. As a matter of fact, survival mode is meant to take you down the best path because it's supposed to help you survive. However, when you get tripped up by a trauma, then you're going to avoid the trauma and your world is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. Let me give you an example. So let's say you were bitten by a dog. Now, I love dogs. It's pretty hard to develop an aversion for me to dogs, but I guess it's possible that if I got bit by enough dogs, I would lose trust in dogs and then eventually avoid them and avoid a beautiful creature that I'm so in love with and get so much light from. So that would be a shame. And so if we don't deal with our amygdala, if we don't deal with our fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, then our world is going to get smaller and we are not going to evolve. So that's the next thing that trips us up. So now if we move to panel number 3, you're going to see a DNA strand. So look at panel number 3, and that is our first level of encoding. But what's encoded in there? All the psychoviruses, all the blueprinting from horrible past experiences and multi-generations of unevolved parenting and parenting gone wrong, systems gone wrong. And so the first encoding leaves us with compromised belief systems, beliefs like, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I don't matter, I'm not important, I'm incompetent, I'm stupid, I'm ugly. So these kinds of things trip us up. And it's sort of like in that panel, you're in psychological jail. So if you see the DNA strands, they've got the bars, like psychological jail, and the toxic environment, which doesn't let you breathe and grow and refine yourself. And so here you are trapped in this psychological jail and you cannot evolve. So pretty much you stay as is, or even worse, eventually the system crumbles. And what's the next step? Chaos. Look at panel number 4. So in the chaos panel, you could see that the system that was originally built is unsustainable. So if you could put that, thank you, put the panel up, you could see that everything is chaotic, upside down, toxic, discombobulated, disconnected, and it is impossible to evolve in an atmosphere of chaos. And if you notice that the world is in a state right now of a lot of chaos, and it's really, really difficult as a human race to evolve when you're constantly being threatened, your security is being threatened, the globe is in crisis. It's really, really, really hard to concentrate and evolve. So what happens after chaos is a bunch of defense mechanisms. So here's another layer of why we're not evolving, because we're in pain. We don't want to feel bad. We don't want to feel the effects of life. So what do? We defend. How do we defend? Well, we're very creative. We defend in all kinds of ways. We avoid, we drink, we smoke, we overeat, we get on our cell phones and just kind of blank out. We defend by projecting our pain on other people so that they feel it and we feel better temporarily. And that's how we keep stuck. We don't evolve, we're just defending, there's no growth. So after a lot of defense and a lot of trying to make ourselves feel better, at the end of that road, it doesn't really work out. So what comes after panel number 5, you will see what comes after is break down. And this is where the rubber meets the road. And this is an opportunity really for evolution versus devolution. So evolution is break through, and sometimes we have to break down in order to break through. And what do I mean by that? I think all of you have had challenges in life where you had to make some decisions. Maybe you smoke and the doctor told you that if you continue to do that, you're going to get emphysema and you're going to completely obstruct your ability to breathe. So now you've got choices. What are you going to do? Are you going to keep smoking and keep devolving? Or are you going to use the breakdown as a breakthrough and cut out the habit and start to heal? So that would be an example of a breakdown leading to a breakthrough. And there are many, many examples of breakdowns that lead to breakthroughs. Alcoholics who end up in a crisis and then they end up in a program and a detox process and they've got to go through DTs and so on. And the breakdown, it kind of is that choice point where it either kills you or you decide that enough is enough. And it's not easy to get to the point where you break down and decide to break through, because habits die hard, addictions die hard. There's always a little bit of charm in the addiction, a little allure or a lot of allure in the addiction. And so when we look for short-term gain over long-term outcome, we're sure to know that we're on a path of devolving. So let me give you examples. So let's say you say to yourself, it's okay to just relax and not go and work out, and it's okay to not eat healthy. And then months and months and years go by, and then you end up having a heart attack, or you end up losing muscle mass and feeling weak, or you end up with neurological damage or damage to your kidneys or your liver or your eyesight or whatever. So you cannot ignore nature, even though you might not want to devolve. Well, nature's going to do it to you unless you get, and here's my favorite word, proactive. What does that mean? Proactive is you can either wait till something breaks down and then try to save yourself, or you can become proactive and do all the things that you need to do to maintain and evolve your mind, body, and soul. And I think we have a question. So, yes.
So we do have a question, and it says, what psychological or environmental factors might cause a person to devolve, and how can someone recognize these early signs of devolution in their own life?
I think a major factor is who you hang out with. It matters. If you're hanging out with people who do not care about their health, if you hang around selfish, narcissistic people who don't care about other people, if you're hanging around people who are unkind, you're in a toxic environment, and it's really, really hard to evolve. If you're trying to watch your diet and you're sitting with somebody who says, oh, have a piece of cake, have another drink. If you're trying to quit, you know how they say in AA, if you're trying to quit alcohol, you have to get rid of your friends, or your friends are going to have to get rid of their addiction, one or the other. It's really, really difficult to sit at a table with somebody who is drinking and inebriated and high on their substance when you're sober and you're trying to watch your health, and you're trying to watch your addictions and so on. So I would say the first line of prevention or better defense is to mind who you hang out with. Second is create a team that's going to support your psycho-spiritual evolution. I never know how to pronounce that correctly. So you want a team that is going to be actively involved in encouraging you to climb the ladder. This might be a friend, it might be a spouse, it might be a boss, it might be a coach, it might be a therapist, it might be a trainer, it might be a nutritionist, it might be a doctor. Somehow when we're accountable to another human being, it makes the world of difference, so that you can check in with them and they can give you actual feedback as to how you're doing. So I would say accountability, who you hang out with, the team that you build to evolve you, because it's not easy to climb. If you see panel number 8, go back to panel number 8 for a second, and you could see that people on the ladder are not just statically climbing all by themselves. They have somebody that's pushing them up, or they're helping up, and then you see somebody higher up on the rung, role modeling something higher and better, helping them up the ladder. So it's a process of sharing. So you're sharing with the people below you. You're giving your wisdom to people who you're above, so to speak, and not in a narcissistic way, but you're just a step or two ahead of them. And then you've got the role models who are a step or two ahead of you. And that's what you want to do, is you want to be with people who you can look up to, people that are your mentors. So mentorship is really, really important. And if you can't find a mentor, find a professional mentor, okay? Or find a spiritual mentor, somebody that you can look up to. We can't be our own God, so to speak, whether you believe in God or don't believe in God. We can't be our own higher power, because by virtue of the fact of higher power, it means there's something above us that's wiser, better, more evolved. And we've got to look up to climb that ladder. We can't just be looking at ourselves in the mirror to climb the ladder because we need to aspire to higher realms. So I hope that answers the question. So today I was talking about a funny concept called trouble money. Okay, so when we are devolving and we don't follow the universal principles, we better have a thick bank account called trouble money. And that trouble money is for repairing the damages of ill health, for getting out of addictions, getting out of lawsuits, getting out of anything that you fell into the hole of. And so the more you are proactive and the more you mind your mind, body, and soul, the less you're going to have to fish yourself out of disaster. So the trouble money is, unfortunately, everybody needs to have a bank account called trouble money because we always get in some sort of trouble, whether it be a speeding ticket, parking ticket, accident, something. So we all need that buffer, but let's not be too stupid about this and not assume that we are going to be able to all the time fund the trouble that we create in our own life. And that's why it's so important to mind the long-term goals, not the short-term goals. In my example, I've got to be really careful with my diet. So yes, I love cheese and sugar and fatty things and all that. It's just that I can't afford it. It's not going to evolve me. On the contrary, it's going to cause me trouble. And so I'm better off keeping out of trouble and putting myself on a pathway that is going to foster my cellular health. It's going to foster my organ health. That's going to foster the health of every part of my body. And the same with my psyche. I don't want to be around people that lie or cheat or are secretly wanting to put me down, talk behind my back, wish me ill. I don't want that. I want people who are going to celebrate my successes and point out areas that I'm possibly getting myself in trouble. And those are the friends that I want to surround myself with. And that, believe it or not, is few and far between. So what I mean by inability to recognize whether you're in an atmosphere of evolving or devolving, sometimes it's hard to tell. And one of the things that you definitely want to do is be around friends that are going to be happy for your successes. So important, because don't you want somebody to be there for you to encourage your evolution as opposed to be happy when you trip up and make them feel better about their own miserable, devolving lives? And people are sneaky that way. They'd rather see, some people, not all people, some people would rather see you fail because it makes them feel better about themselves. So going back to panel 1, wounds, and panel 2, reactions and encodings, if they don't feel pretty enough or smart enough, then it makes them feel better if you fail, or it makes them feel better if you get fat, or it makes them feel better if you don't take care of yourself, and you don't want to be surrounded by people. So if you can kind of get a sense of this whole system, we're taking a system gone wrong where your light's been blocked from whatever childhood wounds you've been exposed to, and now you want to put yourself in an environment, a clean environment. Like if you look at panel number 9, for example, okay? So panel number 9 is my unity panel, where you see a clean globe, dolphins, water, sparkling, everything in balance, pH neutral and non-toxic. And that's the kind of environment, as best as you can, put yourself in. And sometimes you don't know you're in a toxic environment because you've been in it so long that you can't even recognize that you're in it because it seems so normal. So that's what I mean by you don't even know that you're devolving because you're used to it. Reminds me of a song that I wrote, never really published it, but it's called Dirty Fish Bowl. And it's about fish swimming in toxic water. And they don't even know that it's toxic because it's their home and they're used to it. And so they're devolving in this water. They don't know because they're used to it. And if somebody tries to clean their water, they get very upset because now they're in a different environment, they're being disruptive and they're not used to it. And even though it's evolutionary, the water that is, they can't accommodate to the evolution because they're not used to it. It doesn't feel like home. So one of the processes of the mind map is to make the familiar, the toxic familiar, not okay. So when the toxic familiar is okay, you can't evolve. So if you come from a family of alcoholics, if you come from a family that eats fast foods and doesn't mind their diet, if you come from a family that puts people down, that's your norm. And so it's hard to think that you're not evolving because things might actually look good. You live in a nice house and there's, food in the pantry and so forth, but it takes a little bit more wisdom than just seeing the surface. You've got to go for the long-term effects. And I think the more and more we understand environment and environmental toxics and toxins and heavy metals and environmental toxins in the form of people like narcissists who vampire other people, the more we know that we are interconnected and that energetically and physically, all of this has impact on us. So if we want to evolve, we've got to put ourselves in healthier environments, and that means healthier philosophy, healthier group support, people who are synergistically in line with your growth partners. That's my favorite concept. And they are hard to come by, not impossible, but hard to come by. So you want people who are on a path of growth, because if they're not, it's really, really easy to stoop to the lowest level. Again, if they're drinking, smoking, and abusing their body and talking about other people behind their back and sabotaging other people's growth, it's really easy to join in on that. And so sometimes we've got to remove ourselves from all that toxicity and find our balance point, and then surround ourselves with people who are on the same page. Anybody want to call in and talk about evolving and devolving and what that looks like and what that doesn't look like? Any other questions in the chat room? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we do have another question.
Okay.
How important is the mindset in this evolution of the let me read this so I can. How important is the mindset in the process of evolution? Are these particular mental frameworks and attributes that promote or hinder personal growth? There we go.
I think truth is the most important mindset. You can't BS yourself. You can't say I'm growing when you're not growing. You can't say that something's just okay for you when it's really not. So the mindset is a truth mindset. The truth is, if you drink Coca-Cola, I'm not making this up, and I'm not being paid by anybody to diss Coca-Cola, I'm just using it as an example, or any kind of soda, you're going to devolve. The truth is, go with the truth. The truth is that this, in the long run or the short run, is not going to promote my well-being. So the mindset is always tell yourself the truth and don't excuse things like, oh, it's okay not to go to the gym. It's okay not to drink a lot of water. At least tell the truth and say, not drinking a lot of water, I'm dehydrated. This is not going to be good for my cells. Or I'm drinking too much sugar, too many neurotoxins. At least start with the truth. The mindset is the truth. Get out of denial and stop thinking that you can have a little of this and a little of that. Maybe you can, but it all adds up. Now they're saying that alcohol is a major neurotoxin. Women have a higher propensity toward breast cancer if they drink even a little. So people get out of denial. You can deny and fool yourself, but you can't fool nature. The cells are going to react, your body's going to react, your mind's going to react to people who are toxic, and you will find that your energy will dwindle, your health will dwindle, your money will dwindle. So the mindset is invest in your health, mind, body, soul. Boundaries. Keep away from people who are not invested in their health because they will only drag you down. Get yourself in a position where you're surrounded by the right people, or for a while get away from the wrong people so that you can reset and find your own balance and then reintegrate yourself with the right people. So again, the mindset is truth. Don't tell yourself things like it's okay to eat that, it's okay to, it's okay to hang around this friend, even though the friend is draining you of money or energy or vampiring you on any level. So these are the things to mind if you want to evolve. Again, I want to go back to short-term versus long-term. So let's say that you are invested in a project and short-term, you're gaining a lot of money or success with it, but philosophically, it doesn't align with who you are and what you represent. So this is sort of like making money on things that you don't believe in, investing in things that are not good for you or other people or the planet in general. Well, you might make a lot of money in these investments. However, you better prepare for your problem money account, okay, your problem account, so that when you get sued or when things don't do well or the public discovers that the company lacks integrity, that you can afford to survive the discovery of the inauthenticity. So inauthenticity is a pathway to devolving. Authenticity is a pathway to evolving. Truth is a pathway to evolving. Lying to yourself in denial is a true pathway to devolving. So I hope you're getting to learn a better game of life here. I love call-ins, and if anybody wants to maybe present a situation where they're not sure if they're devolving or evolving or what the Freud is going on. And again, it's hard to tell. Please call in, please ask a question, and I can run some examples by you so that you can get really, really, really clear. Even simple things like, you sit down and you relax. Well, do you know that if you're sitting down for too many hours, it's going to literally break your back and cause tension and pinched nerves and so on. And so you want to be careful how you conduct your life. Even simple things that you think are relaxing and evolving you, if done too much, is going to devolve you. Sitting too much will devolve you, right? Even eating too much good stuff. If you're only going to eat carrots all day long, well, good. Carrots are good, but all day long and only carrots, I don't think that's going to evolve you because remember, you need all kinds of vitamins, all kinds of minerals, all kinds of food selections to get your proper amount of fat and protein and so on and so forth. And so don't be short-sighted. That's another way to make sure that you're evolving is to check your choices against long term. So if you're going to make a choice, it's kind of like a chess move. You better be a few steps ahead of the game. If you're going to move that chess piece forward, then you want to know that your opponent cannot easily checkmate you. And in this case, your opponent are those dark spots in panel one, right? All of the things that compromise us, all the unconscious things that we're not aware of, the shadows, okay? And our light is all the things that we want to invest in that evolve us. But before we can evolve ourselves, we've got to identify the shadows that block us and take us down. So really what I'm teaching you is a better game of life, something to think about every single day. Get up in the morning and you call a friend and you're in the consciousness of complaining. Well, sometimes it's nice to get things off of your chest, but sometimes you're calling the wrong friend who is too busy for you or isn't honest enough to say, look, I'd like to hear what's going on with you, but I can't right now. Can we talk later? Something like that. So not everybody's on this conscious path of evolving as opposed to devolving. So, even getting up in the morning, what's the first thing that you do? Usually go to the bathroom, eat something, right? Take a shower, make your bed. Okay, so all of these things set the tone. So if you're setting the tone for progress, then it's easier to keep climbing the ladder. So one of the things I say in my book, Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect, which you can all have a PDF copy of or order it off of Amazon.com, is that health begets health. So you can see the cover of the book. The DNA strands on the bottom are the past, you're in the darkness, and then you've got to climb out of that and be the cause. So if we hold ourselves responsible for being the cause and not let advertising companies, marketing, so on, the daily philosophy that hasn't been tested over time rule us. If we're thinking beings that are interested in being causal and not passing the buck to people who we think know better or fools who don't know better, then we can have a chance of being causal and take full responsibility for our choices. And another thing I want to bring up is the concept of self-reflecting and self-correcting. Not every choice you make is going to be a success. Just like not every pick on the stock market is going to be successful. So course correct, reevaluate and make sure that the food you eat is agreeing with you, the exercise process that you've chosen is sustainable, the people around you are supportive and will help evolve you. The books that you're reading are going to sharpen your mind and give you new and fresh insights. These are the things you get to choose. So I'll reiterate and say, choose wisely. Every single choice is an evolve or a devolve. There are very few things that are neutral. Like, I guess there are some things, I call them pH neutral things. I suppose eating popcorn is not all that good for you or not all that bad for you. Not really sure which one it is, but I'm sure there are things that are just sort of like, okay, well, not going to hurt you, it's not going to harm you. But in general, something's either evolving you and making you better or devolving you and tripping you up. Any other questions in the chat room?
We do have another question. Someone's asking, what are the long-term psychological impacts of sustained evolution versus de-evolution, and how could these paths like help your overall well-being and satisfaction?
So, a great question. So, extrapolate. If you're going to, every day, you're going to add to your evolution and choose the right food. Food's an easy one for me to point to because it's physical. Then the cumulative effect of that is going to be one thing. If you choose unwisely for too long, then it's going to have cumulative effects. And the easiest way to see it is if you're going to eat greasy food with high cholesterol value, then why don't you just look at your arteries? Go to have your arteries checked and do some sort of a, what do they have now? Ultrasounds to show you where you're clogged up and so on. Okay, so don't close your eyes, open your eyes, see what you're doing to your body, cause effect. And don't again, don't deny and pretend. So everything is cumulative effect, positive or negative. If I learn one new word a day, which I don't, but I think it's a great idea, imagine how great my vocabulary would be in 365 days. That's just one new word a day. Imagine if I did one more push-up every single day, just one. Or let's say I drank a little extra water every single day. Or let's say I was kind to somebody and I made that a habit every single day. What if I remembered to be more charitable, just a little bit? Doesn't have to be a lot, but just a little bit more every single day. And charitable doesn't have to be cash, it could be in deeds. Let's say I decide to open doors for people or let somebody in line or let them pass me on the road. All of these things are cumulative. And guess what? The more you do things like this, the more you will like yourself. Okay? Because you like people who are generous. You're people. So if you're kind, you're generous, and you're good to other people, then that will reflect on the way that you perceive yourself. And that's going to build your character. And then other people are hopefully going to respond to that and want to be around your light. So again, health begets health. So be that role model. So any other comments, questions, thoughts? Evolving, devolving, we're constantly evolving, we're constantly devolving. And since I've been sitting in this chair for about 45, 50 minutes, I can know that my back is probably devolving. Feel the pinched nerves and the sure. And so what I'm going to do to counterbalance the devolution is soon get up and stretch, drink some water, make sure that I'm well hydrated and that I open up my body and not let it just devolve into a stress mess. So I hope you get the concept of evolution and devolution and mind your day and your choices. Thank you so much for tuning in. Good night, everybody.